Hi, and welcome back to Reflect Forward. I'm your host, Carrie Siggins. I'm so glad you are here today. Today is an advice from a CEO episode, and we're going to talk about mindfulness. So, recently we had a group coaching session. We have a life coach who coaches at Stone Age exclusively, and several people have gone through this curated program that we made. And we start every session with a grounding, so to speak. And we take deep breaths, and it really helps everybody get present into what's going to be potentially an intense conversation. We're going to be sharing things. And after we got done with this mindfulness exercise, our coach went and asked everybody how they were feeling. And the words that people expressed were amazing. I feel present. I feel relaxed. I feel less stressed. Just in 5 minutes of breathing and going through a specific mindfulness exercise. And I want to share this because it's really important. We are so stressed as a society, and people are so stressed in the workplace. And we want to talk about mindfulness maybe as this like woo woo thing, but it's not. Literally, in 5 minutes, every single person in that session said that they felt better. Why would you not want that when the stakes are high, the pressure is on in the workplace, and people need to perform? So I think it's important to think about how to include mindfulness in the workplace. Now, I meditate every single day. I focus on creativity in my meditation practice. I'm doing that on purpose because I am creating so many things, creating this company, creating my podcast, creating my writing, creating all my speeches. Being creative is something that's so incredibly important to me. And as I have developed my creativity meditation practice, it has dramatically improved the ideas that I have and how to articulate those ideas. And while not everybody's into meditating, I can see tangible benefits. So I had this work experience, I have my own personal experience, and that's what inspired me to talk about it today. So, what is mindfulness? It's simply being present in the moment. It's slowing down to have awareness of your surroundings, of how you feel inside, to take some deep breaths, to calm yourself, to center yourself, to ground yourself so that you can perform better, so that you can lean into an uncomfortable conversation, so that you can take on a difficult task. So it's an incredibly important tool that we can use to be able to help us through any kind of a stressful situation or just in general to feel better. So let's talk about why mindfulness is so important in the workplace. I think the number one thing that mindfulness does is it helps us communicate better, right? So we did this little 5 minute exercise and then we shared, and people were more open and we had a more in depth, meaningful conversation. People were listening because their ears were open rather than trying to think about what they were going to say. It definitely improves empathy and listening, which leads to better communication and stronger relationships. So, if that is something that you're interested in as a leader, that's a great reason to start incorporating mindfulness into your workplace, into your team. I also think that mindfulness improves decision making. When you are coming from a cool, calm, and collected, rational place, you make better decisions. When you are mindful and grounded, you're more aware of what's going on in the present moment. You are more open to ideas and opinions and to seeing things that you might not see if you weren't really grounded and present. So I think that it helps you make better decisions. It also helps you make better decisions because if you're managing your emotions, then you tend to make better decisions, right? Instead of reacting at something, you can thoughtfully respond. So every time that I feel myself getting amped up, if I simply just take a few deep breaths, or if it's more amped up, maybe go for a walk, I come in feeling not so amped up and I can have a much more thoughtful response to what's going on. And this just recently happened to me where in the moment I wanted to react when I was getting some tough feedback from somebody. But in that moment, I took a deep breath. I made sure to think about my feet on the floor. I said, okay, I'm going to be open to what this person is saying to me. And we wound up having an amazing conversation, and the feedback was accurate. I needed to own it. But I made a much better decision in the moment to be able to listen and respond appropriately than I would have if I would have said, "No, that's not true. What are you talking about?" So, better decision making for sure, because it helps you control your responses and be more open to what's going on around you. Another significant reason why mindfulness is so important in the workplace is that it reduces stress. Like, just like I said, shared in my example, everybody said, I feel less stressed, right? It is crazy how stressed we all are, right? There's so much going on in the world, there's so much going on at home, and we're trying to do more with less at work. And so, when you are mindful, when you take a few moments to take a deep breath, when you meditate, you do some yoga, you go for a walk, whatever your mindfulness practice is, you can reduce that stress and anxiety. And who doesn't want less stress and anxiety? So it is a very important piece of well being that you can incorporate into the workplace. I also think that mindfulness can help you with better time management. I know whenever I'm feeling flustered because I've got so many things going on, if I take just a couple of minutes to breathe deeply, I do a better job of prioritizing, focusing on what needs to get done, being able to say these things aren't important rather than going, everything is important. And I can manage my time much better. As I said, creativity, right? For me, my whole mindfulness practice is really around being more creative. It helps open up new perspectives and ideas. And if you want to listen to a great podcast about this, listen to the Huberman Labs. Andrew Huberman has a whole podcast on creativity and gives you great meditation tips on how to improve your creativity. I do his practice. And I can tell you it has made a big difference, but it definitely has opened my mind to new perspectives and ideas and leading to more creativity and innovation. And then finally, I think if you have a practice of mindfulness in the workplace, it can lead to increased job satisfaction, right? And that's simply because people are less stressed. If everybody feels safe to be able to take a walk when they need to be able to take some deep breaths when they need to be able to go to a quiet place and meditate or whatever their whole mindfulness practice is, it helps them feel more engaged and more satisfied at work because they can manage their emotions and they can focus on the work at hand. So overall, I think having a mindfulness practice within the workplace can improve the overall performance and well-being of a company and of its employees, which is why this is such an important topic. We do not have a regular practice of mindfulness at Stone Age. It's something that I start off and on with my executive management team, where we take a few minutes to center ourselves before a meeting, or we take a few deep breaths when somebody has shared a story before going on to the next person. And so I have to practice what I preach here. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want to incorporate it into Stone Age's daily work because of this experience that I just had recently. And I saw the profound impact as, a group of 10 of us were doing this together. And so, just to be totally honest and transparent, this is not something that I am doing currently at Stone Age, but I really want to encourage it because the research just is there that the more you can encourage people to take breaks and be mindful and have a mindfulness practice, the happier, healthier, and more satisfied they're going to be, and more able to manage their emotions and be creative. And that's all something that we want. So I am doing this podcast so that way I can hold myself accountable to figuring out ways to incorporate more mindfulness within our daily work. All right. So here are some of the ideas that I have right now around how to be able to do this. So I'm going to employ some of these, but maybe some of these will trigger some ideas for you, or maybe you're doing these things. And if I miss something, please, let me know. Leave a comment in YouTube. But the simplest thing to do is to encourage breaks, right? Taking a break, stepping away from your work, and just taking a few deep breaths. Like that is simple. You don't have to go and sit cross-legged like this and meditate to be able to have a practice of mindfulness. But being intentional about how you take your break, which means like don't get on your phone and look at the news or your favorite app or whatever, but really truly just saying, I'm going to be in this moment. I'm going to pay attention to my surroundings and just be present in this moment. That's a simple way to do it. You can offer mindfulness training. I think that this helps for sure teach people. Like I said, watching what happened as our life coach led us through the session. Right, it was just really simple. It didn't take a whole lot, but it gave people guidance on how to be able to get grounded in the moment. A lot of people don't know how to do that. Right? They say, "Oh, my mind just spins and I can't stop it." But if you have a practitioner teaching you, this is something that could really help with helping people embrace why mindfulness is so important. So consider bringing in someone to train. Um, Incorporate mindfulness in meetings is an easy way. Like I said, off and on, we will start each meeting with 3 minutes of deep breathing. I've even had a meditation app that does a guided meditation. Put that out so everybody can just listen to it together. Unfortunately, that falls by the wayside when things get busy and we just have to get to work. So, staying committed to doing that 3 minutes of breathing before you start a meeting really can encourage people to be grounded, and everybody feels better when you just do that. So, that's a really easy way to be able to create this culture without having to make a big, huge deal out of it. Another thing to do is to encourage your employees to prioritize their well being. As you know, I believe that self care is a discipline, not a luxury. And if you encourage employees to take time off when they need it, to take care of themselves, to have a well being practice, to have a practice of well being and how they take care of themselves, then you are encouraging them to be more mindful because they're thinking about, what do I need in this moment? I need to take a break. I need to take a day off. I need to, go to a doctor. I need to go to a therapist, right? It's hard to be able to turn in and really understand and really ask yourself, like, what do I need right now, if you're just constantly stressed, anxious, and on the go. So that's a really important thing. Employees should always, always take care of themselves first and foremost, because you can't show up as your best self for your teammates and your company if you aren't your best self for yourself. So I think that's really an important aspect of this. So these are just some ideas that I have that you can start incorporating within your team or within your company. But I think that the underlying message here is taking a few moments every day or multiple times throughout the day to get grounded, to get centered, and to be present is really important thing to encourage our employees to do, because it does reduce stress and it makes people feel better and more present and more grounded and more engaged in their work. So lots of great things there. Okay, so I get this a lot, right? What do I do if I hate meditating? Okay, well, I will agree with you. Meditating is not easy to do. Some days I love it and I just like slide right into the groove and it's great. And then some days it's like I cannot shut my mind off and it's very frustrating. And the point of meditating is not to stop thinking, to be aware, oh, I'm thinking this, and to let it go. My HR director gave me this great visual that I use. So meditating, all of a sudden I realize that I'm thinking instead of paying attention to my breathing or my mantra, whatever I'm doing. And I imagine the thought that I'm thinking in this little bubble, and then it floats into the air, and then I just flick it away. And then I come back to being present and in the moment. And that is a great trick to be able to say, okay, I recognize that I have that thought. I'm just sending it off without getting frustrated with yourself. But some people hate meditating and they think that mindfulness is just meditating. And that's simply not true. There are lots of ways to be able to incorporate mindfulness into your daily practice and to encourage your employees to be more mindful without having to go down the meditation route. Now, meditating is fantastic. If you go read all the research out there, like, it is so good for us. So even if you hate it, it is very good for you to be disciplined to have a practice of meditation. But let's be real, not everybody's going to do that. So here are a couple of other ways that you can be mindful and you can encourage mindfulness in the workplace without having to say, go meditate. Walking, number one thing. It is so amazing what happens when you go out for a walk. So take a mindful walk though, right? Don't talk, don't have headphones in, go outside, pay attention to your breathing, look at your surroundings, like pay attention to things that you wouldn't think normally pay attention to. So what does this rock look like? What does this plant look like? What do the clouds look like? and pay attention to your feet hitting the ground and what that feels like. So you're very present and in the moment, and you're outside getting some exercise, and you'll come back feeling better. Yoga is also a great mindfulness tool. It's called moving meditation, where you can stretch your body a little bit, you can focus on your breath, and you can clear your mind. Anytime I'm stressed, I do some yoga. And this was a great tip. So I did dry January, and I'm actually quitting drinking. I was so inspired by my guest, Ron Carson, who really brought it home of, how bad alcohol is. I listened to the Huberman Lab, Andrew Huberman's podcast on what alcohol does to your brain, body, and health. And I said, that's it, I'm doing it. So anyway, I am on my journey to not drink, or at least dramatically reduce it, but not drinking for several months. And I find that when I want to drink, which is just the habit of coming home every night and having a glass of wine while I'm making dinner, if I just do 10 minutes of yoga, it's gone. Like that whole, like, ooh, I want to have it, the glass of wine is gone. And so it really is amazing what it can do to you to help you distract yourself from, habits that you're trying to break, because it gets your mind, body, and breath moving at the same time. So yoga is amazing. Journaling is another way to practice mindfulness. So you can reflect on your thoughts and your emotional by writing things down. Coloring, like adult coloring books, are such a thing. I have not gotten into it, but I will tell you that I miss my son coloring, because he would always say when he was younger, he'd say, "Mom, will you color with me?" I was like, "Yes." And I would sit down, and I loved it. So it is a very good way to just pay attention in the moment, to be creative. And when you color, it just rid your mind of everything else. So get an adult coloring book. Breathing, just taking some deep breaths is the fastest way to practice mindfulness. Just to close your eyes, clear your thoughts, and just count 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10, and then start over. And if you find yourself thinking about something, then start over at 1 again. But some deep breaths are really great ways to taking some deep breath is a great way to practice mindfulness, and counting helps you keep your mind busy, without thinking other thoughts. And then some other little tips, right? Mindful eating, mindful brushing your teeth, right? Instead of like thinking about the day while you're brushing your teeth, think about how it feels on your teeth. When you're in the shower, instead of singing or thinking about your day, think about the water hitting, what it feels like to wash your hair. When you are eating, instead of, thinking about your day, and what you're stressed about, think about what the food actually tastes like in your mouth and the texture. Like those are all just little ways to be able to practice mindfulness without having to meditate. So it's really important to find what works for you and your team and your company as you're trying to incorporate this into your daily practice. So don't be afraid to experiment and to try different techniques to find what works for you, what works for your team, and what works for your company. Remember, the goal is to be present and aware, not to force yourself to do something you don't like or to do this woo woo mamba jamba stuff that people think it is. It really is to reduce stress and anxiety, and to help you feel more connected and grounded in your work. Everybody could use that. Okay, hopefully that is inspiring to you. On to my question of the week. So my question of the week comes from somebody on LinkedIn who said, "Hey, Carrie, what are you reading right now? Would you please go back to putting your book reviews on your website?" And I don't have time to do that anymore. So that's one of the things I have cut out. So I'm actually listening something to right now to Brene Brown's Power of Vulnerability, Teaching of Authenticity, Connection, and Courage. So this is a collection of her sitting down in an audience and talking about authenticity, connection, courage, shame, fear, blame, humiliation, all these things that we feel. And I really love this because I love Brene Brown, but her books are repetitive. So I have a hard time reading all of them. But I will tell you this, like listening to her talk on stage, she is so funny. She is a great speaker, and you can understand it like that. And it's like this. It's like me talking to you right now. Only she has a live audience instead of me, looking at my camera, pretending I'm talking to you in person. And it's so good. I love it. And I highly recommend it to you. So you can get it on Audible, or I'm sure on any of the audio platforms that you listen to, but it's really, really good. And it's made me think a lot about the difference between shame and guilt and how to recognize when I'm shaming myself, because shame is such a detrimental feeling that we have, right? Guilt is, oh, I feel guilty because I did this. Shame is, I am a horrible person because I did this. And there's a big difference. And shame is really, really destructive when we talk to ourselves out of shame, when we talk to other people, when people shame us. It needs to just go. Unfortunately, we are a culture of shame. So I highly recommend listening to this. It's really, really, really good. Okay, with that, I will leave you. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you like this podcast, please write a review, rate it, subscribe to it, share it with a friend. Go to my YouTube channel and subscribe there. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.